In this episode of Valcast, we're going to be going over this Honda Integra and why it was so popular in the 90s tuning scene. So at the time, this car was manufactured when Honda was in its prime, as tuner enthusiasts would call it, when they were producing their front-wheel drive lightweight sports cars featuring the newly invented at the time VTEC system. The Integra was Honda's way, or Acura in America, of bringing in a affordable, compact, lightweight sports car with a smaller, less complex engine that could keep up with the turbo counterparts of other brands.
So this being Honda/Acura's entry-level sports car is powered by the mighty B18 B1. So this being the GSI in Australia and the LS in America, has the non-VTEC 1.8 litre producing 104 kilowatt. So back in the day, Honda decided against using the F or the H series because they were heavier, high displacement, to keep this cheaper, firstly, and also lower weight.
So as you know, this Integra is actually my personal Integra. And if you have watched videos on the channel before, you know this is not your standard B18 B1 Integra. So I actually got this Integra as a GSI. It was automatic with non-VTEC. We did the manual swap series that, if you're a returning viewer, you would have seen 100%. I've also done a B16A2 head conversion on this, which the Americans like to call it the LS VTEC. So it's got the B18 B1 bottom end with lower compression, as well as a B16A2 out of a Civic VTIR or an SI in America with the VTEC system. Running a B16A intake manifold and a couple bolt-ons here and there running on a Honda, so not very stock. And it's also got, from the manual swap, you wouldn't have seen this part, we've also chucked in a Civic VTIR or EM1 SI in America gearbox with shorter gear ratios than the GSI one, which helps it climb in the RPM, keeps in VTEC and climbs the RPM way easier. So this car for me proves exactly why Honda was popular in the 90s. I have Frankensteined this murder with a bunch of freaking Hondas. There's parts from left, right, and center with EKs, DCs, even EMs. Every single Honda, has donated parts to this engine. It was all cheap. It was easy. I did it myself. I didn't need any help from any mechanics. I've done all the servicing myself. It's cheap, it's budget friendly, and it's fun to work on.
So back to why the Integra made a name for itself in the tuning scene is just the simplicity of it. At the time, the Mitsubishi FTO, the Toyota Celicas, and the Silvias, they either went down the route of big engines, big displacement, or turbos, and that added two things: weight and complexity. What everyone loves about the Integra is, no matter whether you're a professional engine builder or just trying to get into cars, there's something you can modify it. There's parts cheap, there's parts available, and it's not the fastest, it's not the most expensive, not the best handling. It does all of those pretty well, and for the price, back in the day, you'd be pretty hard to find something to beat it.
So in Australia, the GSI and the VTIR interiors, they weren't that great compared to your American counterparts, so we only got cloth interiors. As you can see, the GSI has the grey cloth interior, which I actually really like. It suits the car nicely and everything's tied in really nicely. This has an aftermarket steering wheel here, which is a lot better and a very common upgrade for your Honda Integras. In America, in the US, they make the Integras, the Acura Integras, with a leather interior, which is in the LS, I believe. They even came with, your padded door pads, full leather seats, and they even came with a base model with a tan interior, which we did not get here in Australia. We just got the black interior with the grey or black seats. So in terms of the interior, how it feels, as I said, aftermarket steering wheel, feels great. To deep dish one, so it kind of pulls your driving position back a bit further. Great, everything's in view. Your gauge cluster, very simplistic. Even the 5-speed manual here feels fantastic. It's B-series gearboxes, even Honda gearboxes in general always feel great. It's very notchy, and you know what gear you're in. It's not like you're flopping around everywhere. This one has a few upgraded carbon pieces off an Integra Type R. So here we have the carbon here, bit of carbon around the shifter here, and on the matching tacho there's also carbon from an Integra Type R. And that's another thing. The upper trim specs just bolt straight into this, and it's all readily available to upgrade your base model Integra. So enough yapping, let's take this thing for a drive and see what it's all about. So driving the Integra, it's quite loud in here, but not too bad. Pretty comfortable to drive. The gearbox has got quite close ratios with the S4C closer ratio gearbox. So right now I'm in 5th gear at 70k an hour, sitting at just over 2,000 RPM, which is quite crazy because in most cars you don't really hit 5th gear until you're on the highway. So that's pretty impressive, I guess you could call it, if you're looking for short gear ratios, that they're so close. But yeah, a little bit loud, but not too many rattles. This one's actually on eBay coilovers. However, they are not a rough ride. They're a bit bouncy over bumps, as you can see, but as a 90s little hoon box, it's nothing to complain about. Now it's time to see how this Integra does. So we'll do a little first gear pull here. See how it goes. I love it. So as Will has mentioned a couple times in this video, the thing that the Integra stood out with was its lightweight chassis, as well as being super rigid as well, with even a few like stiffening mods. These things are super stiff, which made them fly around the racetrack, especially their short gearboxes and their high revving engines. They were lightning fast on circuits in Japan, and there's even videos all over the internet of Japanese Integras and stuff racing everything in its class, above its class, and everything in between. They're incredible little cars for what they are, and they are so popular in today's culture because of their popularity in the 90s and their ability to be tuned and modified. And the main thing is parts availability. Parts availability for these cars is just insane. There are so many parts for these cars, from K-swap to J-swap. Even D-series came in this car, so you chuck a D-series in if you want. There's just nothing like it. There's nothing that matches this chassis. Same with the EG Civic, because they share a chassis. Everything bolts into them. There's so much mods and stuff you can do to them. They're just awesome cars in that regard. So because this car has a Honda S300, it has launch control fitted. So we're going to give you a bit of a go at the launch control and see what it's like. As I said, this car is LSV Tech, built by yours truly. It's on a tune that I got from somebody else and altered. So let's see how it performs off launch control.
So despite this car being a GSI, it does have a full Type R lip kit, so front lip, side skirts, rear pods and rear wings, and it is also on some Rotor JSPLs. Lowered on max speeding rods, coilovers, not the best, but for the price, they've actually held up pretty well. These have been on the car for close to 2 years. They ride fine and surprisingly actually handle pretty well.
So as mentioned a few times, the reason these Integras were so popular was because of their awesome handling ability. They have double wishbone at the front and the back, and they have front and rear sway bar as well. And a upgrade of the sway bars and some stiff coilovers, and this thing handles like it's on rails. Even the Integra Type R out of the factory has a stiffer whole setup essentially than the GSI and VTIR counterparts, with stickier tires and stiffer suspension, which makes it out of the factory a track animal. So if those couple of upgrades, and these things will literally handle like they're on tracks. So that's going to wrap up this episode of Valve House. Thanks for coming along and watching us do a bit of an overview of the Integra and why it was popular in the 90s and why it is still popular today. They're a great little chassis and they handle so well to mods. So stay tuned on the channel. We have a long list of mods coming for this Integra, and hopefully in the next few months it'll turn into a bit of a monster. Thanks for watching this episode of Valve House, and we'll see you in the next one.